Okay, we'll try this thing again and see if this video can work this time. We can get it downloaded so everybody can see it. But it's going to be broken up into a number of different parts. And hopefully by the time all this is done, you'll have all the answers to the questions I just emailed you. So first thing, problems that both the North and the South faced as they entered into the Civil War. Northern problems are pretty simple. One, what is this war going to be? Is it a war on slavery or is it a war to preserve the Union? That was the big question they had to deal with. And that's going to be important when we get to the border states. Two, who will lead their army and how are they going to get their army set up? Many of the best leaders who graduated from West Point are now in the South, and the only Union generals are some of the ones that were not sometimes the highest caliber students at West Point. We could always bring Winfield Scott back in, but old Fuss and Feathers is getting pretty old, and so I don't think he's what we wanted to, or the North wanted to lead into the Civil War. Three, how do we keep the other countries out of this war? England and France obviously felt that this split of the United States would be advantageous to them, and they would have been much happier if the South would have won. Unfortunately, for them and for the South, the North is going to put a lot of pressure on them to stay out of this war. So that is one of the things that the North has to face as they get involved in it. And three, how do we force the South back into the Union? And that is also going to be a major problem because the South isn't going to come back willingly, and the North is going to have to force them back in if this is going to end well for the North. For the South, the problems are fairly simple. One, how do we pay for it? Where are we going to get the money? What are we going to do to get that money? How are we going to continue our trade, especially when the North, as we're going to talk a little bit, is going to blockade the South? Basically, the finances are going to be very tight for the South. Two, how do we set up a government, especially a confederacy? A confederacy, if you remember right from back in the Revolutionary War time, was a situation where the states were in a kind of came together but did not act as one. Each state could kind of do their own thing. As a matter of fact, during the war, Georgia is going to threaten to secede because they did not want to fight in this war. So how do you set up a government that can actually run during the war? And that's going to be one of their key problems. And also, their leadership during that time period, Jefferson Davis was not the best man for that situation. He actually tried to force the South to do things, and they were very adamantly that they did not want to do some of these things that he wanted, and he had no real control or power to stop them. So the setup of the government and this idea of confederacy is one of the problems the South faces as it enters the war. And the third problem is how do you get foreign help involved in this war? And that is not going to be easy for them, obviously, because England and France are getting pulled in both directions. While they do like the South and they do trade with them immensely, the North is also a big trade partner for them. And getting involved in the Civil War opens up a lot of serious problems for both sides. So the South is also facing a lot of problems. How do we get all this together and how do we fight this war, especially without really a trained army? While many Southerners are going to be well versed in military arts, especially dealing with the idea of riding horses and shooting guns and things like that, much more than the North, they don't really have a standard army with uniforms and equipment, et cetera, et cetera. So there are the problems facing both the sides as we begin this war. And then I will start on the next section in the next unit. So I'll see you then.